yet another how-to video on Kriyastream. Kriyastream is a cursor-like app for PMs. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you a modern workflow between a PM and an engineer that work to collaborate on a simple project, which was to migrate a blog website from Blog Engine to Storyblok. And in this, the work actually started with the engineer picking up an existing site and building an entire UI library, and then categorizing and cataloging the content, building information architecture, and then pushing it to Storyblok and getting all of that done through the help of AI and a bunch of other tools. While on the other hand, the PM may have been organizing the actual business handoff to the business users in terms of change management with marketing, content authors, technical writers, and others, for them to know how and what change is coming to them, and what they should be prepared with in validating the actual migration. So the task is simple. How do you create a work breakdown to migrate Blog Engine to Storyblok successfully with the business users, while engineers work on the actual migration, and how do they meet in the middle or exchange their tasks and the work they've done? So in that, while the work is happening on the engineering side, the PM goes into Kriyastream and then asks for something very simple. Let's create a project for a blog migration. This is a chat that actually created the blog. The chat is with Kriya. That is your AI coworker. That's an assistant PM that does all the work for you. And when the PM asks, let's create a project for blog migration, and says we're cutting over from Blog Engine to Storyblok, the immediate thing is the agent goes into action and prepares a plan, not knowing what the engineers would have done, what they needed to do, or what they could have done. Now, in a typical scenario, you may create the plan first and give it to engineers. But in a very fast-moving, agile team, especially with AI, engineers are not waiting on PMs, and PMs are still trying to organize and make sure the engineers follow what the PMs want. So in that, they create this. So after the prompt is given, it gives you a really nice outline of a plan. It tells you how it's going to do the work breakdown. It's going to divide it into project phase, task, milestone, and then open and in progress, and use work statuses of open, in progress, and done. Then it proposes a bunch of phases that it thinks are necessary for us to go live. What is important and interesting is phases like content modeling and SEO architecture, migration and data movement, QA and validation. This is where it gets interesting, because now you have to collaborate across multiple teams. So then it proposed a pretty decent work breakdown. We don't have to go through all of it here, but at least it gives you a good outline, and then it also proposed a schedule for this whole project. Now, assuming that the engineering team was busy actually executing on the development, the PM says approve, and then the whole project plan was created. And if you wanted to actually look at the project plan, it will quickly show you that, yeah, there's a lot of detail here for each of these tasks. There's some description, specify rollback triggers, dependencies, go, no go, and a bunch of things. At this point, it gets interesting because the PM is not aware of all the feature functionality and the work breakdown that the engineers did to break down the UI and the content and information architecture that actually needs to be validated. So when we come down to things like validation, QA and validation, we say things like validate page rendering and component behavior. So how's a PM supposed to know where are all the pages and components that were created? So in this case, the engineer then switches over and sees the project has been created. So the engineer's workflow is in Cursor, for example, in that they go in and they say, hey, go look at my blog. By the way, this engineer has Kriyastream already configured in Cursor using MCP. There's another video for it. Go ahead and watch that, and you'll see how you can leverage MCP in your favorite coding agent, with your favorite coding agent. But once that is configured, they can simply ask something like, go look at my blog migration in Kriyastream and update the testing and validation with all the features that we actually built in Storyblok blog migration. So this starts to get interesting very quickly, because now you're seeing that the engineering team, once they're told by their PM that we have a project plan that we need to enrich with the engineering work that was done, it's as simple as this. And there's a rules file that Cursor takes and says, yeah, I know how to work with Kriyastream, and then pulls down the work breakdown. It also, interestingly here, right? So it actually found the right project for the right team. There could be multiple projects and multiple teams. And then I always like this part where you always ask the agent questions before executing. So in this case, it asks questions. Hey, the project name is blah, and should we do this and XYZ? And we said, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So once it was done, right, you're going to start to see things like all of the stuff that was updated and migrated from our code base. We are reverse templatizing our features back into our project plan for things like the QA phase and evidence, including launch and SEO and cutover. And when I go back to my task here for validating, I see some detail in here that came in later after the engineer finished their work, which is, it says right here on blog and blog slug, confirm article page stories render correctly via Storyblok. Now, this is important because now you can see that the language used by the engineer in creating a path and a named story called article page is what the authoring team now needs to know when they are learning and onboarding a Storyblok. And now you're seeing the actual application context show up in a generic project template. And this feels like the modern collaboration that needs to happen, the modern workflows that happen in engineering teams, to where the work doesn't start in any one place and flows linearly. The work starts simultaneously across teams, but it needs to be merged and aggregated and set into project plans and templates so the business can still track the definition of done. It is very, very critical for the business to always know the definition of done, because at some point the business has to run on the software. And it is not a hobby project that an engineer or an app builder is building for themselves, where they don't really care too much about the next phase and the next iteration of that app or build and maintenance, and it's not a one-shot app development. So hopefully you really enjoyed this video, and feel free to like and comment on YouTube. But again, just to recap, you start with work breakdown as a PM, but your engineers can already start executing with AI. At some point, they come together to ensure that the work breakdown with the relevant detail, with the definition of done, actually is the way to execute successful projects. Just a quick tidbit, if you wanted to see what's next, here's another prompt of what was done next, which is to say, now take a look at this project plan and see which task can be analyzed and performed by which agent. So now you can look at the work of validation and the work that was assigned and created to see what agents you can leverage to actually execute certain tasks. And between humans and agents, the collaboration should be seamless. With that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please feel free to subscribe and like our videos. Thank you.